Welcome him. Do you need a clicker? Yes. There you go.
Thank you, sir. Hello. You're probably asking yourself a lot of questions. What is the idea that you're going to borrow from any other Code for Country into your own projects or into your own programs? What is the one key message that you're going to get from the Code for All Summit and bring it back to work next week? Or maybe have you managed to keep up with your emails? Or what did you miss from last night's karaoke? Or why am I wearing a Code for Nigeria t-shirt? Am I really come from Code for Australia? Yes. So I don't have the answer to all your questions, but I'm wearing this because it's one of my favorite t-shirts. That, of course, apart from Code for Australia's t-shirt. But what I wanted to talk to you about is one of the latest experiments that we have had at Code for Australia. I guess one of the successful experiments that we have been running at Code for Australia in the last 2 years. But before I tell you about that, I want to tell you a couple of things that would probably resonate with a lot of you, which are not very happy stories. They're what we call at Code for Australia Gov fuck-ups. So for example, in 2013 there was $1 billion wasted on an electronic health record that it never worked. In 2015, the Department of Education wanted to roll out a education portal for a state, and they wasted $535 million on things that still don't necessarily meet the needs of students or teachers. And just last year, the federal government tried to not create, but just repurpose a tool to do welfare payment systems, and they've wasted $104 million that has not been yet rolled out. Does that sound familiar to any of you? Yeah, cool. All right, so at least we're not the only ones who do that in Australia. But so the stuff that happens with these projects can be attributed to a lot of different things. And one of those things that we always can think about is, procurement, of course. Like it's an arranged marriage. So government does these beautiful long tenders documents with all the scopes and all the needs that are required to build this mega platform. And then they engage someone and miraculously, they know absolutely everything that is going to happen, and for the next 2 years, they're married, and somehow it's going to be delivered on time and on budget. There's also the notion about outsourcing all the technology that government produces. So it's very rare to find tech teams within government. And lastly is the traditional model of how projects happen in government is usually a well-intentioned minister comes up with a new idea, and then the advisors come up with a policy or a process of how to deliver that thing, and it hits the machinery. And when it hits the machinery, it's already got a ministerial backing or a ministerial message with a date and with some funding allocated to that. And we know that is not the way that good tech projects happen. But the thing that I want to focus on is something different. This. Because one of the rationales behind us focusing on capability is that behind all those projects and behind all of those things that I mentioned before, there's always people there at the core of those decision-making processes, and everything that happens within government involves people. Also, tech is totally unavoidable today. Like, if you think about having a career in anything, technology is something that we need to know. It is pretty silly to think about that that is not a core thing that we teach students in school, and that is not something that is not required in jobs that are totally embedded with technology. And the last thing is that capability is actually something pretty interesting. Like, if you think about yourself, we're constantly learning, or at least we wish we were learning new things. So How is that packaged at Code for Australia? What did we actually do? We created a program called Tech for Non-Tech, or at least we borrowed a program Tech for Non-Tech, called Tech for Non-Tech from a bunch of people in New Zealand called Inspiral. If you don't know them, I really encourage you, you should. They're like, yeah, pretty cool gang. They're the hippiest tech nerds I've ever met, and they are totally transforming the world one project at a time. But Tech for Non-Tech, what is it? It's a one-day class. Sorry, I went too quick there. Ding. The other way. That's what I'm trying to do. There we go. So it's a one-day class. As the name suggests, is a class for non-technical people to learn about technology. And the way that we run it is with a small group of 20 people. And what is essentially creating is an opportunity for people to have recognize that it's okay not to know about technology. And it's okay for people to have developed a lot of different skills to get to where they had gotten before, or where they are. But now, those positions where they're at, they need to evolve and they need to develop new skills, which is one of the things, technology is one of them. And we run it at in two different ways. One is kind of like an executive level program where it's more around focusing on for people making those decisions, those funding decisions, to understand what they are funding. Because most of the time, they just fund the promise and they just fund the initiative, but not necessarily understand what is actually needed to get that project off the ground. And the other way that the other focus that we do is on product owners or people who are actually delivering the piece of technology for the government agency. And what we focus there is the communication between them and their IT teams, whether it's an outsourced IT team or whether it's their own IT team. Because we know that technology is not the same as management. We can't run an app, or we can't fix an app, you know, on meetings that last for 60 minutes. We know that it's a lot more complicated than that. So this is a little quote from the CEO of a busy civic and ministerial tribunal in Australia that I won't read you what it says, but you can read it yourself. And I want to pause and reflect a little bit about this, because it's not someone who was an accountant that went into a boot camp, a coding boot camp, and learned how to code, or someone who just went and did a master's degree in something. Like, this is someone who her decisions impact on people going to jail or being in court and getting into trouble. And that matters a lot. And what I think is more interesting, and I hope that it's not necessarily that we're teaching tech, but what I think is more interesting is that this is just one piece of the puzzle of accelerating digital maturity in government, where we allow executives to understand what is needed to support tech teams and tech projects, and they can be involved in that. We get them to understand that budgeting for those sort of projects need to be an ongoing thing, a multi-year investment that they make. It's not an app that gets developed 1 year and then everything is done. That we need to understand that that the tech tools that we build, they continue to grow over year upon year and year. And also that the teams that deliver those projects need different skills. And those sort of skills are needed inside government. By the way, I want to acknowledge that all of those things that I've just mentioned are part of a research project that David Eves from the Harvard Kennedy School has been doing. And if you haven't read about it, you should. Just Google it, and I'm pretty sure that you can find it. It's amazing. And we've also got another experiment on the side on that, but I can tell you about it later. So what now? First of all, you might want to take a deep breath, or I will, about Tech for Non-Tech. And given that I have 5 minutes, I will slow down quite a bit, because I think there is only one more slide. So maybe I'll take another deep breath. But essentially it's like invest in capability. Like, yes, there are awesome tech that we need to do stuff, to fix problems, to do other things. But if we don't get those people who ultimately are making those decisions on board into this journey, into this thing that we've created, we're not going to be able to solve the problems that we face today. And this is a really, really small process that we have gone through at Code for Australia to do that. And it's definitely not fixing the problem, but it's doing something that we're really proud of, which is empowering people in government to know what is happening with their field, and also to see a career for them inside government, and that they can progress and do other stuff. And that is me.
Thank you, Alvaro. Hold on.
What's true?
Okay, yeah, that's
That was
true.
Grace.
Okay. Starting with the question, can you tell us more about what we can expect when Code for Australia hosts next year Code for All Summit?
No one wants to take a 27-hour flight, so I don't know if that's going to happen.
I am pretty sure everybody here is looking for an excuse to fly to Australia.
Yeah. Well, Matthew agreed that Jamaica was opening its doors for us, so I'm pretty happy about that.
So it's Mexico, Australia, and Jamaica which are fighting for the next year. Okay. Okay. What is the main challenge of civic technology in the Global South, in your opinion? Wait, those are old questions as well. Here. Hold on. They didn't reset it. I'm just going to refresh. How are you in the meantime?
Pretty good.
Okay,
I
cool.
think.
First time here in Bucharest?
Yes.
And how do you enjoy the city?
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Okay, it's still refreshing here for me. So, any jokes you have?
No, yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, we'll use this. This one is from Mika. This is old. Nico, this is a question for Alvaro? Yeah. Okay. How can civic tech organizations build links with public institutions that do not get severed when the political environment changes or one public servant leaves?
Well, I feel like that's longer than my presentation. What specifically are you asking, or who was Nico? Oh, right.
So you try to build links with public institutions so you can solve some public problems with the help of governments. But governments change when political landscape changes, or when a public servant leaves that institution. How do you build institutional ties with that organizations?
I just recently read a book called Bullshit Jobs. And I feel I have a bullshit job at Code for Australia because I spend all my time talking to people in government, knocking on their door and telling them about the stuff that we do. And the reason why I think that's a bullshit job is because I'm not creating anything. Like, it's just talking, and I'm feeding a system that it's totally broken, that you have to spend all the time just knocking on people's doors and befriending them and all that sort of stuff, and selling the dream that things can be done differently to what current structure happens. So to respond to your answer, it's just like, it's an ongoing thing, and it's people-based, and it's just spending a lot of time with people.
Okay, how do you convince public officials to join a workshop such as Tech for Non-Tech?
How do we convince them to join the Tech for Non-Tech?
Yeah.
You can ask Grace that question. So I guess we don't try to convince people. Like, what we normally do is, like, whoever's interested will go. So normally what we do is have an open class, public class that we run every couple of months that anyone can register. But also we run organizational classes. So for example, we go to the Department of Justice, and then we run a class for them. So whoever rocks up and whoever is interested will end up getting to the class.
Any bad experiences with the Australian government?
Bad experiences? Oh, plenty. what could be, and it's not so much about the government agency itself, but also like it's a mix between us not being prepared or us trying to do something that was outside our comfort zone and just pretending that everything was going to be awesome. Yeah, that's as far as I'll leave it.
What can we do to make, wait, there was a sudden change here. Okay, what have you learned about the methods that work best for teaching non-tech public servants about tech?
So I am an urban planner. I do not know how to code, or I don't have any background in technology. So the very first thing that I did was take the class, and it was great. Like, I learned a bunch of stuff. One of the things that people come out of it that usually they rage about is we do a lot of, what do you call it when you try to explain something but in a different way? There you go. This is what happens when you go to karaoke. You don't want to see me there. But yeah, a lot of analogies around like how does technology work based on an analogy that anyone can understand. So one of the things that we say is like working in a messy kitchen is when you've been given a piece of technology that no one understands, and when you are tasked to improve that system or that application. So going into a messy kitchen and trying to cook is pretty hard, and it's the same thing when you're giving a piece of technology that you don't know the code and everything is not well documented.
What can we do to make people feel that all technologies, paper, are not optimal, while also not make them feel bad with themselves?
Yeah, that is super important, because like that is the number one thing. Like, public servants are like the people that are making those decisions about large pieces of technology usually are pretty senior people, and for them to acknowledge that they don't have those skills it would be almost a defeat for themselves to say like, oh, I'm a deputy secretary and I don't know about technology. So what we normally do is just acknowledge that that is a completely okay thing to do, and also just keeping things small and communicating that the whole time. So that's why we limit the classes to 20 people, and we specifically say that that is one component of the class.
Okay. Matthew is back. Have you found people within the government agencies defensive about the concepts that you are introducing within organizations?
Offensive?
Defensive.
Oh, defensive.
Or both?
Either. No, not really. Like, what I guess Code for Australia, what we try to do is buddy up with government. So we don't have, I guess, we're almost like the non-profit arm of government that is helping them deliver on stuff that they're interested in doing. So we very rarely oppose whatever they're doing. We just say like, hey, you're trying to do that, but here's a different way of doing things.
How should procurement change to support tech and still guard against wasteful expenditure?
That is, I would love to have the answer to that question. I was interested in yesterday's presentation, the person who was presenting Zorro. I would have loved to get to know more about what that app does, because it's not necessarily around putting more stuff out there in an easier, quicker way, because most of the time those ideas are not well cooked or well thought about. So procurement is a big problem, and many different ways to address why it's broken.
Is the educational material of the tech for non-tech workshops available online or open?
Yeah, most of the stuff is online. Also, Grace created an email version, a mini version of Tech for Non-Tech via email that you can get. So yeah, if you're interested, go ahead and find out more about technology. It's probably the wrong crowd to say that, but yeah.
Some examples in how government participants from tech for non-tech have improved tech for service delivery. What barriers, e.g. procurement policy, might they still face?
Examples of technology going well because of Tech for Non-Tech? Too early to tell. Like, we've been running the program for like about 18 months or 2 years, and most of the time is like we just get anecdotal stuff, and it's always I guess that's the tricky thing about civic tech and the stuff that we do, that most of the time what we're changing is people. And luckily or unluckily, we don't have URLs. So it's really hard to measure, like, because of a program that we did, then I improved my performance or like the decision-making process of an organization.
Okay, Justin, if the Aussie government became impossible to work with, for whatever reason, what other sector would you focus on as a change agent to achieve the kind of impact you want?
So I'm an urban planner, and I'm a dissatisfied urban planner, and that's why I sort of moved to tech. But I reckon urban planning is one of those things that is one of the most important things that one of the most important industries in the world, because it shapes the way that we perceive the places where we live and how we interact with each other. Unfortunately, is one of the most broken and prehistoric industries that work, because it's pretty hard to prototype or test infrastructure. But I would love to find a way to do that. And BIA is also one of those things that I'm also interested in supporting. Another industry.
Okay, and the final question. What are the biggest misconceptions about tech in government that you're surfacing through Tech for Non-Tech?
That it's all a magic box that it can be purchased. So it's like most of the time we find ourselves, stopping people from putting stuff out there into the market, and because they think that if they put it out to the market and they get one of the 3 consultants with 3 acronyms, they're gonna get this magic tool that is gonna save all their problems.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.